This video is not sponsored and has no adverts. Hello and thanks for joining me for some landscape photography. Now, as you probably know, if you follow my channel, I haven't really made any videos since I think October last year, something like that. At that time, my father was taken quite poorly and sadly slipped away very quietly and peacefully early January 2024. Now, my father was one of the reasons why I decided that I would start this YouTube channel. I was out and about photographing the Eryri mountains, which is something that he gave me a love of, and you'll learn more about how that came about a bit later in this video. And I thought that it would be quite nice as he became more elderly and was less able to get out and about into the mountains where he'd spent so much of his life, that I could share my adventures and he would give me suggestions of where he'd like me to go hiking and camping and taking pictures for him. Now, usually when I do a video from the office, I'm sat in front of this picture and you can't see much of it. So I thought I would get out of the way so you can get a better look at it. This was taken in August 2017, specifically as a birthday present for him. There's a copy of this print on one of his walls. It's Dyffryn Ogwen with Tryfan and Penarolwen. And this was taken early morning and I videoed it, and it's video number 10 on my channel. It's going to be sunrise in about 10 minutes, and what I'm looking to do today is behind me there, don't know if you can see that, oops, that's Tryfan, and I'm actually here to shoot that for a commission. That sounds really good, doesn't it? Actually, it's my own commission. My dad's going to be 78 in a couple of weeks, and back in the 50s and 60s when there were a lot fewer people in these mountains, he used to come here every single weekend, and by that I mean winter, spring, summer, autumn, every single weekend, whatever the weather. He got on his motorbike, drove up from the Midlands, up the A5, and spent the weekend camping and rock climbing. So we've been back many times since then, and he's pointed out some of the climbs that he did, and I thought it would be nice to get a really good photo of one of his favourite mountains in one of his favourite areas for his birthday. Now, all of the images that I'm going to show you in this video are actually my own work, and I found them on his computer as a screensaver gallery. Now, they aren't necessarily my favourites, they're his favourites, and to be honest, something he always said to me, that he had no interest in golden hour and sunsets and sunrises, and he had no interest in any of my seascape work. He liked the mountains when they were really grim, really challenging, really dramatic. And so those are the sort of images that he selected from. I sent him everything I took, and then he would put the ones he liked together as his screensaver. So that's what I'm going to be sharing as I talk about how he loved the mountains as much as I do, and the influence that he had on me in that respect. Now, something that he was always at pains to get across to me was that he had no interest in anything I had to say. He wasn't a photographer, he wasn't interested in art for art's sake, he couldn't care less. And even when I would talk about industrial heritage and that sort of thing, he didn't know what I was talking about, because if he could see me in front of the camera, he was spooling past and wrecking my YouTube analytics. He said he loved the scenery and the B-roll, and that's pretty much all he tuned in to watch. However, I caught him in a lie, because there was this particular instance when I was camping at the summit of Eryri. As you know, I do quite like a little tipple when I'm out wild camping, and the lovely Mrs. G and I looked high and low around the house for my hip flask, couldn't find it anywhere. But then Mrs. G said, you had some whiskey miniatures for Christmas, and I'd forgotten all about those, so she handed me one. They're not quite so miniature, however, 10-year-old Talisker. Cheers. Oh, that's not bad at all. I might have brought slightly too much, because there's no point carrying it all back down, is there? Now, I couldn't remember at the time, but it turns out that he'd actually given me that bottle of whiskey as a Christmas present, in amongst other things. And he felt that it was a very fitting place to sit and drink it. So he obviously didn't spool past every time I was in front of the camera. There's a sort of second false summit up here with a little stack of rocks that somebody's built, and it's catching the sunlight. It's absolutely beautiful. The sun is only about 10 minutes from setting. It's way over there on the horizon, so it's coming in at right angles, which is just perfect. And it's lighting up all these rocks in the foreground, and they're definitely part of my composition towards the bottom. Now, aside from walking and camping in the mountains, as a teenager I took up fishing, and I taught him how to cast a fly and how to land a trout. So we also shared that with trips to mountain lakes in search of wild trout. And over the years, we had some really fabulous trips away together with our fishing rods. I didn't take any cameras with me on those. They were just the two of us hanging out, catching fish and drinking beer. Now, as I mentioned in that opening clip, in the late 50s and early 60s, he was a very early member of Stockport Climbing Club, later renamed to Mynydd CC. Now, I've asked them if he was a founder member, and unfortunately their records don't go back that far. But I think there's a good chance he was, because he did mention that they'd acquired a hut at Cwm Crafnant, and this image is what I found as his desktop wallpaper on his computer. And I shot this looking down at Llyn Crafnant from just underneath the summit of Crimpiau, and their climbing hut, Blaen y Nant, is actually not far below where I was stood taking this image. Now, I understand from Mynydd CC that there was quite an argument back in the day, because apparently there was a disused pigsty in Bethesda, which quite a number of members were angling for. I'd be willing to bet that Dad was one of those, simply because A, it was cheap, and B, it was in Bethesda, which meant that it was near the pubs. And of course, it would have been a really long walk from where they had their tents pitched for climbing on Idwal slabs all the way down to Bethesda to get absolutely legless, and then walk all the way back up to try and find their tents in the dark. So when I was making many of my videos and images, mostly around Dyffryn Ogwen between Capel Curig and Bethesda, his neck of the woods, I always had him in mind. I was always thinking, well, can I get an image that he would like to go on a wall, or make a video that he would enjoy? And it's kind of going to be quite strange going out knowing that he's not going to see what I do from now on. But from my perspective, it's still really important to me that when I'm up there, it'll be a place to remember him. His ashes will be there, and so my channel will continue to feature that neck of the woods every now and then, with perhaps a little lump in my throat, but nevertheless, some very, very fond memories of somebody who was such a huge influence on my life. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for this one. I'll put one or two of the final images from his screensaver gallery up at the end for you. I'm not putting camera settings. This is just something for me and my family to perhaps remember him by. But I will be back with some more regular videos, trying to get back to normal as quickly as possible, although don't expect anything too regular from me. I really hope you've enjoyed this, and I wouldn't expect you to subscribe to my channel based on this sort of thing, but have a look at some of my other stuff that's perhaps slightly more cheery, and if you like that sort of thing, why not subscribe and join me next time. Cheers.